Story 1. Had a nasty throat and tonsil infection and went to the doctor, who looked in my throat and went, that looks gross. I said, is that your professional opinion? And he says, yep, that's the grossest thing I've seen in weeks. He was a super nice doctor, and I knew he was just joking. He then gave me some nice medication and sent me on my way, and it really did look very gross. Story 2. I smashed my left pinky toe into a door frame. It hurt like a mother. I went and got it x-rayed, and yep, it was fractured. A month later, I'm at a routine podiatrist visit, and my toe is swollen, purple, and the toenail is black. I'm explaining to the doctor that I fractured it. He looks closely at my mangled little toe and says seriously, yeah, you're going to lose that toe. What? In about 3 seconds, I went through the shock of losing a toe, acceptance of losing a toe, and determination to continue living without a toe when the doctor says, sorry, I mean toenail. You're going to lose that toenail. Story 3. I had a conversation with a new therapist when I was 12. Do kids ever bully you? He asked. Sometimes, I responded. About your nose? He said. No, I replied. That was when I found out I have a big nose. And the world has not let me forget about it since. Story 4. My general practitioner and I got to talking about kids in general once, and he told me about his friend's son, about 6 years old, who didn't call his older brother by name. He only referred to him as, this freaking guy. I almost hit the floor. I had never had a doctor use that kind of language around me before. Story 5. I was out of a coma for a few days. The doctor asked my name, where I am, etc., then told me, you were in very bad shape when you first got here. Thanks, doctor, that makes me feel better. Story 6. My husband had an enormous inguinal hernia, a hernia that goes into the testicle. When his doctor saw it, he actually dropped his professionalism and blurted out, oh my God, what is that? Which is funny now, but at the time was a little bit disconcerting. Story 7. Didn't say anything, but I had finger surgery to have a piece of metal wire placed in my finger. I woke up from surgery to find the surgeon gone, but he had taped a Polaroid X-ray of my finger post-operation to my hand. It was an amusing way to wake up. Story 8. My wife and I had our child late in life and knew we were going to have only one, so a vasectomy was going to happen. Where I live, you need a doctor's referral to get one. Coincidentally, my appointment to get the referral was the same week that I started my paternal leave. At my appointment, the doctor walked into the room and said, you've been on paternal leave for 2 days, and you already want a vasectomy? Story 9. Not a doctor, but the first time I went to my current dentist and he examined my teeth, it went something like this. Dentist. Oh, it looks like you still have all 4 wisdom teeth. Me, yeah, never got them pulled. Dentist. Yeah, and you don't need to. You have a lot of space back there. You actually have a really wide jaw. Me. Haha. Thanks? Dentist. No, it's not bad. It's just your whole head is really big. He seemed really excited about my wide jaw and big head. Story 10. My midwife was wrist deep inside me doing a difficult cervical check when she suddenly said, hey, your socks match. At the time, I had too many patterned socks to keep track of, so I usually wore mismatched socks to my appointments. So when I had a matching pair for once, she noticed during the most awkward moment ever. Story 11. My regular gynecologist was called away, so I had a man instead of my usual doctor. That's always a little awkward anyway. But when I told him I was getting married soon, he yelled, I love love. Let me see the ring. So while my feet were in the stirrups and he was down there doing whatever he was doing, I had to hold my hand down so he could look at it. Story 12. I'm a 43-year-old male. The doctor walked in really fast, head down, and went straight to the sink to wash his hands. He said, I have great news, while washing his hands. You're pregnant. He turned around, looked at me, and said out loud, oh no, wrong person. Story 13. Taking son into respiratory clinic to get tested for asthma, and he was worried about shots. I said to the doctor, no shots today, right? Without missing a beat, he goes, not for him, but I could probably rustle up a couple of glasses and some tequila. We had never been to this doctor before, but he was awesome. Story 14. I was in the middle of getting a gynecological exam. The doctor asked what type of birth control I used. I said, I'm a lesbian. The doctor said, that has proven to be effective. Story 15. Me, with red curly hair at the obstetrician gynecologist. Your hair is so pretty. Is it natural? The color or the curl? I'll find out about the color in a minute. We both died laughing. She didn't mean to say it, but oh my God, it was hilarious. So sad she retired. Story 16. Doctor pulled up my lab tests on the monitor. This was back when they were still formatted for disk operating system patient data systems with just basic white text on a black screen. He was paging down, and a section came up on the screen with bright red text and a box made of asterisks around it. He said, wow. Me, startled. Is that bad? Doctor, I've never seen a result like this before. Me, Doctor, I didn't even think this system could use color or make boxes. Me, oh, okay. So, it's nothing bad then. Doctor, oh no, it's bad. I mean, not horrible, but something we definitely need to address. It's just, makes explosion hand gesture and giggles. Pow! Red. Stars. In your face. Never seen that before. He was actually a remarkably competent doctor, but very new and excitable. Story 17. I went to a podiatrist, a foot doctor, about a nail issue. I was lying down on the exam bed as he was looking at my foot. He said, you have a really flat foot. I looked up from the bed and asked what he said as I didn't hear him clearly. He proceeded to lift my foot by the ankle and said, your foot, it's very flat, and then proceeded to high-five my foot to prove it. Story 18. The doctor was preparing me for a prostate examination and said, this procedure can sometimes cause an erection. Me, oh, I think that's unlikely. It's never happened to me before. Him, not you, me. He was a joker, all right. Story 19. This is my misunderstanding of what the doctor was trying to have me do. He said, hold your breath. So I did. He said, no, hold your breath. I was young and not sure what type of exam this was, so I was moving in different ways to try to, I guess, position myself the way he wanted. And he then said, hold your breath. I passed out that day. Story 20. I was vice president at a bank and managed a spiral fracture in my foot while playing in a ball pit. The orthopedic surgeon asked where I got that injury. I told him I did it at the City Museum. For those unfamiliar, the City Museum in St. Louis, Missouri, is a 12-story shoe factory that's been converted into the biggest, baddest backyard fort on Earth. Slides, tunnels, catwalks, gargoyles, ramps, and an immense ball pit filled with 10-inch playground balls. The doctor started laughing and said, oh, I love the City Museum. It's put all 4 of my kids through college. Story 21. Not to me, but my mom. I was with my mom when she went to get blood drawn once. She has a lot of anxiety over it because she has very small veins, and it's always a nightmare. The phlebotomist comes in and says, Holy Jesus, Mary and the angels, guide my hand, as she's trying to insert the needle. I totally lost it because, if you have to say a prayer beforehand, then this isn't going to be good. It wasn't good. She blew a vein and had to get someone else to do the blood draw. My mom had the nastiest bruise I've ever seen afterward. My family now uses that phrase before doing something where we know the outcome is going to be bad. Story 22. I went to the emergency room in seriously bad abdominal pain. I couldn't explain it, since everything was seemingly running fine. Scant but fine. As it turned out, I was still massively backed up, almost to the point of impaction. The doctor, who was a good, goofy guy, said, Ma'am, sorry to tell you, but your diagnosis is that you're full of it. I cracked up and said, How long have you been waiting to use that one on a patient who won't complain? Him, forever. Estimated time of arrival, since people are rightfully confused. I was in so much pain when I got in that they gave me the morphine before the tests were done. So they had no idea I was constipated when they gave me the morphine. Story 23. Due to a certain health issue, I drink a lot of water, so I naturally brought a water bottle to this appointment. At the end of the appointment, he can't figure out what's wrong but is apologetic about that and sends me for more testing as well as a referral. As I'm getting up to leave, I forget my water bottle, and he simply says, "Young lady, you forgot your water." I've seen way too many doctors and heard many wild things, but the way he listened and was respectful, followed by this super casual offhand joke, amused me. Story 24. I had a general practitioner who was a bit of a jokester, and he was booked to remove a mole from my back. When I got there, he told me he was very sorry, but they were out of anesthetic. The nurse told him off. Then he said, "Nah, kidding, we have heaps. We get the cheap stuff from China." Story 25. I had a cystoscopy a couple of years back. I go in for the procedure. I'm in the gown on the table with my feet up in these stirrups. The nurse comes in, gives me a breakdown of what's going to happen, and then she leaves. A different nurse comes in, lifts the gown, washes the area, puts the gown back down, and then she leaves. I'm now damp, cold, naked from the waist down, lying on my back with my feet in the air, feeling as exposed and vulnerable as humanly possible. The doctor, whom I'd never met before that moment, comes in. No preamble, no small talk. He says, "Let's see what we've got." He sits down at the foot of the table, lifts the gown and says, "Yep, that's a penis. I'm going to put a camera in it now. Try to relax." To this day, I honestly can't say whether it was the best bedside manner ever or the worst. In that context, it was maybe the funniest thing anyone's ever said to me, and I will never forget it if I live to be a billion years old. Story 26. I was in for my sexually transmitted disease results. The doctor, a man in his 50s, bursts through the door and looks me up and down. "Well, well, well. Looks like you've had your weekend of debauchery, and now the cows have come home to roost." Then he opens up the file, stares at it, and looks me dead in the eye. Deadpan, "You're clear. So it was only half a regret for you now." Story 27. I was a brand new medical surgical nurse and was calling a doctor for orders for the first time in my life. I had my situation background assessment recommendation prepped and a small script memorized. I called the doctor and got my orders. There was a big push at this time for doctors to enter their own orders. I asked him, "You'll put those in?" He shouted, "You have a better chance of seeing your Lord and Savior naked, riding a unicycle on the 4th floor." I was speechless and instinctively said, "What?" He said, "That means no," and hung up. My preceptor was laughing so hard and made me share what he said with the whole nurses' station. He later apologized and didn't know I was new. He was a funny guy after that. Story 28. I've had to get a lot of blood work done over the years, as I have struggled with pretty severe anemia. They try to keep an eye on my iron levels and such to see if the treatment was or is still working. Because the anemia already leaves me occasionally dizzy, when you add getting blood drawn into that, I would get pretty damn dizzy most of the time. To keep me grounded while I was in the chair, I'd have my mom come, and she would ask me trivia questions. The last time I went to get blood drawn, the person doing it was being silent almost the whole time, which was fine. She wasn't rude, just quiet. Then my mom asked me the question, "What animal has the longest tongue relative to its body size?" And she suddenly pipes up, "Hummingbirds. I know this one. The answer is hummingbirds." The complete change in energy was hilarious enough on its own. But the funniest part was when we were leaving the room as another doctor entered, and I heard the doctor ask the woman, "Why did I hear you yell hummingbirds?" in the most befuddled voice. Story 29. Walked over to me and checked my pulse after I described what I was there to discuss, namely going off medications cold turkey and unsupervised. After the fact, looked me in the eye and proclaimed, "You're alive. My goodness, you had me scared I was seeing ghosts there. Do not ever do that again." Same doctor, different issue. Me. I'm not sure if this is bad enough to see a doctor about. Him. Well, determining that is different for everyone. But would you like some advice on how to make that call in your specific situation? Me, sure. Him. The minute you consider maybe calling me, that is a clear sign you should have been here last week at the latest. I wish I could give you something for your chronic stubbornness, but unfortunately that doesn't exist, nor would you take it. Story 30. Went in for a magnetic resonance imaging. The doctor says, well, the good news is you can finally prove the haters wrong and that you really do have a brain. Here's the proof. Then hands me a compact disc with the imaging. The bad news was they couldn't explain the facial paralysis. Story 31. A few months before my mother passed from cancer, I took her to an appointment with her doctor. He started out by asking the usual questions doctors often ask elderly patients to check for dementia. Doctor, what day is today? Mom, Wednesday. Doctor, what year is this? Mom, 2017. Doctor, who is the president? Mom, long pause. Oh, some asshole. Doctor, close enough. Story 32. Doctor, you're about 2 days from pneumonia. Why didn't you come in sooner? Me, I didn't want to bother you. Doctor, after all these years, you are my best and worst patient. He is also my friend outside of being my primary care physician, which is why he expressed his annoyance, but also my reluctance to bother him as he sees a lot of self-diagnosed people with nothing wrong with them. Story 33. I'll preface this by saying my dermatologist is someone who had been seeing me as a patient for many years. We had a very friendly relationship and always did a quick personal life catch-up before he started every examination. So, I had a recurring cyst on the inner part of my thigh near my groin. It seemed to come back frequently, even after we thought it was taken care of. The final time I had to have it operated on was Valentine's Day several years ago. So, while reclined in the chair, I had my pants and underwear off with my legs wide open. I'm holding my testicles to one side while the dermatologist and an assistant cut out the cyst. Because I'm not able to see what's happening, one of my testicles keeps escaping from beneath my hand and getting in the way of the dermatologist. He asks me to please pull it back, so I do and apologize, saying, I'm sorry the two of you have to see that, especially on Valentine's Day. Knowing that I'm single, my dermatologist says, well, at least someone is seeing it today. I laughed so hard they had to stop for a couple of minutes until I could get it under control. I missed that dermatologist. I eventually moved away and actually never got to say goodbye. He wasn't in the office on my last visit.